This particular reading seemed really appropriate. So if you bear with me, I will read you the reading. It is from the work of James Freeman Clarke. And he lived in the 1800s. And he did a lot of work across dogmatic lines. The way he wrote and the way he expressed was fantastic for allowing for conversations. So imagine that in the 1800s, people from different dogmatic lines actually listening and having conversations based around his work. He says, "I have been placed here to grow, just as the trees and flowers. The trees and the flowers grow unconsciously and by no effort of their own. We also grow unconsciously and are educated by circumstances. But we also control those circumstances and direct the course of our life. We can educate ourselves. We can, by effort and thought, acquire knowledge, become accomplished, refine and purify our nature, develop our powers, strengthen our character. And because we can do this, we ought to do it. Use and improve or lose. Use and improve your muscles and your perceptions, or they will gradually and certainly fail. Use and improve your memory, your understanding, your judgment, or they will become feeble. Use and improve your conscience, or it will grow torpid. Use and improve the powers which look up an infinite truth, beauty, and goodness, and they will lift you toward these. Let them sleep, and they cannot see this kingdom of God, this divine element in the universe. I do not believe that we are able to make ourselves into anything we please, but we can make ourselves into what God pleases we should be. The germ of great future is deposited in every soul. Every soul is a seed. It does not yet appear what it shall be. It is a bare grain. Of some seeds may be born beautiful roses. Others will become modest violets. Some will tower into graceful elms, whose branches shall bend and wave in the summer air, and beneath whose far-reaching shadows the cattle shall stand resting in hot days. Others shall become grasses for food, herbs for the cure of disease and the solace of pain. To every seed its own body. One shall be a rose in the garden, angry and brave, another a buttercup or a sweet pea, and yet another shall open as a tender morning glory, and give the poet a hint of a strain so sweet that it shall comfort all the mourning mothers' hearts. And another may be a daisy, turned up by the Scottish plough, and, dying so, be born again in an immortal song. Why should you envy your brother or sister because they are more wise, or have more genius, more business faculty than you? Why envy anyone because he or she is more fair or brilliant? The buttercup does not envy the rose, nor the prairie vine complain because it is not a Virginia creeper. God has made everything beautiful in its time and place. Let it be contented to unfold into that which it is intended to become. We grow only when we become more and more ourselves, our best selves, our truest selves, selves that God made us to be. We do not grow when we try to be like this person or that, or strive for this person's wit or that person's scope, or become like this saint or that genius. The rose grows when it unfolds into a rose, not when it tries to become another shrub or flower. The palm springs erect to heaven, to haven, to grow up a palm. The vine creeps and hangs and swings in the air and pours fragrance on the breeze and grows into a vine. Thus God has made each of us to be something, to have a real place, and to do real work in this world, and that our own work which no one else can do. If we are faithful to the inner light of our own conviction and to the daily duties which God sends to use, we shall grow. With glad surprise, we shall find ourselves becoming genuine in the garden of our God. And that's from James Freeman Clarke's writings. And he talks a lot about cultivating self and self-culture. And isn't that what being healthy is all about? You are healthy when you are the most you, unapologetically. And living through that heart-centered place. So your heart, that place where you feel, doesn't actually judge anything. It just is. And when we follow that just is, that's your healthy place. And I don't know how often we think about that, because we often think about our heart hurting or doing this or that, but it's not until we decide what kind of charge to put on that happens. And that comes from our brains, our ego self, which is why what you read in the daily word today about letting God not be an outside source, but yourself in your heart. And if we understand God in us and God not judging and our heart center as that, and recognizing that place to grow, that is the seed that James Freeman Clarke talks about. That is your seed place. Everything you have is there. And then everything you experience allows that to turn into what it needs to. But also what we decide that experience is. Again, it's what we assign the experience, not what the universe is assigning the experience. And also to not deny the experience or the feelings or the emotion. Because often we get to a place where we're trying to be everything we need to be. We're trying to align with God. We're doing everything we think we need to do for that. And yet in that, we think we have to be a certain way, or we shouldn't feel certain feelings, or how dare I get angry right now, or how dare I be more happy, or I shouldn't show that I'm really happy and in a good place right now next to this other person who's feeling really awful. All of that goes through our minds. And that judgment call about what we should or shouldn't do, again, is all in our head. It has nothing to do with the reality of the experience. You can feel everything. That's part of the experience, is allowing that feeling of everything. And not just allowing. Allowing is actually not quite the right word, because it's going to happen no matter what. You are going to feel or recognize some kind of feeling. It's what do we do with it? Do we recognize the feeling as a feeling, or do we start adding if it's good or bad? And the adding the good or bad, that is, what's the name of that weed killer? That's what you're putting all over your seeds. All right, instead of that great gift, that coming into yourselves. That cultivation, he talks about cultivating of knowledge, of self-care, of being just you. There's that saying that says, bloom where you're planted. And it took me a long time to figure out exactly what that meant. Because everybody, you look at sometimes people that do different things than you, and you're like, well, maybe I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And yet you are where you are right now, and you're doing what you're doing right now, and that is enough, and it's beautiful. That's enough, and it's beautiful. And each feeling, if each feeling is a way to experience the universe, and it's a way to come in more contact with that. Allow that feeling to be the prayer. So prayer is a feeling, we all know that. It's not the sitting down and the petition, all right? True prayer is that feeling. And if it's the feeling, each and every time we're recognizing we're feeling anything, that turns into a moment to offer gratitude and prayer. So your life becomes the prayer. Your life is that essence of prayer here spreading out. And as soon as we allow our thoughts to line up with that, that magnifies like crazy. And they can actually measure that now electronically, which is fascinating. So if you go to some of the work of the Heart Math Institute, those that come in, they call it a resonance, an alignment. And when your thoughts align with those feelings, without reservation, without judgment, without a charge, your heart energy expands, and they can measure it going out and out and out. And if your heart is your seed from God, isn't that what we all want and what we need? That's what we need to bounce off of each other without the charge. So if you're having a crummy day, let yourself feel the crummy day, let it work through you and get over it. Let it waft through. It's not easy because you want to block the crummy day or walk away from it or whatever, but you can. You have that choice. And then you can be inspired with the world around you, no matter what is going on. And, not all of it is recognized as pleasant. But then we get to offer compassion through that. So the abbots and the Tibetan monks, so if you go up high in the mountains, they talk about compassion is what the glue is for the whole universe. And it's not the compassion of, I feel really sorry that that's happened. It's the compassion in knowing that you are totally supported through all of those feelings. And when you allow that knowledge, that's the allowing part. Allowing the knowledge that we are compassionately held and have the ability to not only absorb that, but reflect that back out. That's what glues the universe together with everyone in the sharing. It's offering blessings for the situations. It's offering gratitude for the situations, whatever it is. I recognize that in this situation, even if I don't understand it right now, I'm going to place myself in the way of not only offering blessings, but receiving blessings from recognizing that situation. And you can do that in many, many, many ways. On Wednesdays, we've been holding the healing service here. And in many ways, that is one way for people to understand that and to offer that to each other. And there's a box out front, and I just noticed somebody placed a backpack full of school supplies in there. So that's awesome. So that's another way to tangibly show. Because we do. Yes, we're energy creatures, but we are on this planet to tangibly show. And it's nice to do that and to recognize that when it happens. And to recognize it often. Even if the feeling is something that doesn't feel ridiculously pleasant, to offer blessings and gratitude to that often. As soon as we accept about ourselves or about the world or about anything coming at us that's negative, we have to accept the positive and vice versa. If we're going to accept all the accolades, then we're going to have to accept everything that's said about that's negative. And as soon as we realize that that is part of the experience and don't accept that any of it is positive or negative and just recognize how we are feeling in the moment with whatever it is, and then bless it. And then your seeds will grow. And then you can cultivate all this other, the education and the thought and the sharing and becoming accomplished Sure, that's important, but in what form? Is it the earthly forms? Or is it the knowledge that whatever we're learning here and exchanging with each other on that energetic level is really what's going to carry through? I was here last night for an event, and Serena was sharing with a couple of sisters on this side of the church, Serena Baptista. And her comment was, because at that moment she was feeling, they were sisters, and she was feeling the mother in spirit. And she said, I'm really feeling like your mother needs to talk about all of the stuff, the physical things that she deemed important. And those sisters, they concurred that that was part of the mother's personality while she was here, that having a certain amount of money and a certain amount of status and stuff was really important to her. And the message back was a remembering of a conversation that she had with one daughter about, do you know you're not taking this with you? So from the other side, she's like, you know what, I didn't hear you then, but I understand now. And she's trying very hard from the spirit plane to get back, saying, you know what, I really understand that some of the issues I had with myself was because I was putting judgment on all of those things. And how incredible is that for healing back this way? And what a great reminder for us to not have to carry that with us. Realizing it now is a great thing. And not having to sort it out on the other side and wondering what the heck. And also recognizing, as Christian tells us over and over again, that when we are doing those things on the other side, again, the compassion is so great, the compassion is so overwhelming, that again, there's no judgment. There's realization. And the realization that you can spread out what has been realized to others. And in the case of last night, it was a direct communication, but that energy continues to flow and flow and flow. And allow yourself just to be with that. I took my children to see the new Christopher Robin movie this past week. And I know I'm paraphrasing. I should have wrote it down right when I left the theater. But several times it was a thought of a great amount of something can be found within doing nothing. So allow yourself that, the void part. And you know what, and after that movie, I actually found myself taking time out in the front, sitting and just watching the hummingbirds come and drink out of the flowers. And 10, 15 years ago, it would be something I loved to do, and I did it all the time. And then you get to where, I need to do A, B, C, D, I have to take care of 1, 2, 3, these people need me, this, and I tell you what, this summer has been a little bit different because we have watched the hummingbirds more. The house is a wreck. But my kids, it is. Don't come to my house. But if you want to sit outside and watch the hummingbirds with me, that'd be great. But there was something, and there is something about that. And then we let our children, or I let my children, that's part of the mission of it, was to make sure that they're doing nothing so that they, and so I have these fun moments this summer of them, playing in the ditch when it was raining, and they had the greatest time when it was pouring down rain, digging and getting totally soaked. And again, in our society, we would consider that doing nothing. And yet it was the greatest something. And we offer that to our young people, or we want it so badly, and when we forget, it's okay to do nothing ourselves. To cultivate that. Think about that. If we go back to the seed reference from James Freeman Clarke, that seed does nothing in the earth while it's soaking up the energy and being itself. It is. So I am healthy is not about allowing, it's about becoming. It's remembering that our feelings become emotions only when we associate a positive or negative. Emotions are actually the tags we put on the feelings. And remembering that we are all going to have feelings. We're human. We signed up for that. But we can recognize that as part of the experience. And cultivate self through cultivating of the universe is recognizing that we are divinely manifested. And I got one last quote here I want to share with you. It's by Eleanor Roosevelt. It's not on your sheet. But she said, it's better to light the candle than to curse the darkness. And it's better to light the candle than curse the darkness. It's better to be that proactive and recognizing and doing and being than that wallowing or that why and what if, and if anything else, if you've never been to one of those services, I mean that, even though the message was for somebody else, you could feel that it hit the whole room, to be who you want to be and not worry about those perceptions. I always tell my kids, unless you're hurting somebody else on purpose, and unless you have decided that you want to hurt somebody else, your actions and your feelings and everything else cannot go wrong. You already are healthy. Let yourself be healthy. Amen. Thank you.